Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07. Good morning. Thursday, the 8th day of January, as we plow through 2026 with abandon. Coming up at 6:35, we're going to speak with Jason Sneed. He's with Honest Elections Project. Talk about the developments in California with a statewide voter ID initiative coming to the ballot. And about the SAVE Act. Maybe we can get voter ID nationwide. Maybe that's not a good idea. We'll talk to him. 7:05, Ken Cuccinelli, former Attorney General of the state of Virginia. He was also a former Deputy Secretary of DHS. We'll get his perspective on the developments in Minnesota. And at 8:05, Walter Kurt, independent investigative journalist. You remember, he's the guy who broke that story about the two high school girls in Fairfax County who had abortions facilitated by school personnel without their parents' consent. Well, he's now hot on the trail of the Somali fraud, and he's done what the mainstream journalists won't do. He's actually done a deep dive into some of those learning centers, and, well, it's shocking what your tax dollars are paying for. That's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Bethany Mandel this morning. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning. So I think you actually mispronounced it. I learned from the Somali people that actually they're Leary centers.
That's centers. Right. I apologize for that. And it's like I can't read a basic English sign that's just put right in front of me. It's a Leering center. Leering. You know, you always judge your learning centers by how they spell the words in their sign. It's always a tell, isn't it? Bethany, if you're like me, you were up late last night watching frame by frame a smartphone video of a woman getting shot by an ICE officer. Are you like me? Oh, hello?
Larry, we're having some mic issues.
What's wrong with your mic? Your mic or my mic?
There we go. Sorry. 5 a.m. headphone issues.
Oh, good. Hello, Bethany.
Hello, I'm sorry.
I was saying, if you're like me, you were watching a frame-by-frame smartphone video of a woman getting shot by an ICE officer in Minnesota. Yeah. As everyone has become a forensic legal expert on what went down on that street that led to the death of this agitating protester who was impeding law enforcement.
Yeah, so that was a really relaxing way for me to unwind before I went to sleep.
Isn't it, though?
It always is.
Welcome to my world.
Wonderful. And like you and like many other people, because I, too, am an expert, I watched a lot of different angles. And, you know, it's hard to see and it's hard to know. But I think one of my frustrations after the Bondi massacre in Australia was there was a lot of armchair people who definitively knew exactly what they would do in that moment with their adrenaline pumping. And I feel that way almost always when it comes to police action. Yeah. You don't know what their training is. You don't know what you would do in the moment. Right. But I don't think he was unjustified. That I can say with certainty. Exactly.
Thank you. There two things can be correct at the same time. First of all, I know that many of my colleagues might not go this far today. I will. It's tragic that this woman is dead.
Yes.
It is absolutely horrible that someone, two people have lost their daughter. Apparently she was in a same-sex relationship, so her wife witnessed this, and she is now without her spouse, and that's a tragedy. By the way, it's also a tragedy that this officer has to live with this the rest of his life, because I happen to know that cops don't want to kill citizens. They don't want to discharge their firearm, leading to the death of a person in this situation. He did not want to do this. And there's a lot of second guessing, and there's a lot of, you will never know what was going on in her head. Obviously, it's impossible to know now. But here's the thing about these situations. All of that is kind of irrelevant because it's impossible to second guess, because it's impossible to know what was going on in her head, because of all of the variables and all of the angles and all of the split-second decisions where people are saying, well, he could have jumped out of the way of the car, or the wheels were starting to turn this way and they weren't going to hit him. And all. No. We have some simple rules in society. where we don't have to delve into all of those woulda, coulda, shouldas and try to figure out after the fact what was really going to happen. Those rules are this. When the police are on the scene and they are telling you that you need to stop everything, get out of your car, and follow their orders because they are engaged in lawful criminal activity, you stop everything and you follow those orders.
Yep.
And if you don't, this is what happens.
Yeah, no, and it's I think I was joking about this off air, but this is the problem with being like just a privileged white person. That we forget that these rules apply to us also. And I made this mistake during a traffic stop once. I was so exhausted. I had 2 little kids, and my younger of my 2 kids at the time was screaming nonstop all night long, and I had to drive my husband to the train, and I was driving home, and I got pulled over, and I was waiting a long time for the cop to come back after he ran all of my information, and my kid was screaming his head off, and I went to get out of my car to check on him because I couldn't see him, and the cop screamed and almost pulled his weapon and was like, "Put your hands up," and I was like, "I'm just checking on my kid in the back."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You can't do that. That is not allowed in the game here." And it was a real eye-opening moment for me because I go through my life used to just people trusting me and all, but when you're in a situation where it can go deadly very quickly, the police's threshold is on the floor, and it should be, because one false move and one, they trust someone and they shouldn't have, they're dead. Mm-hmm. And that's the world that law enforcement operate on.
Especially when the law enforcement have seen for the last year people exactly like 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, who is now dead at the hands of this ICE agent. They have seen their brothers and sisters wearing the badge get shot at, get attacked, have cars driven at them in exactly the same manner that we saw here. And the only correction I would make is it has nothing to do with being white or having privilege of some sort, Bethany. I know that those are fun buzzwords. That this isn't white privilege. This is the fact that we have to be oriented to acknowledging that the stakes have been raised to such a deadly level for law enforcement in this climate. When they approach a scene where they are carrying out lawful actions, and you've got this woman who had purposely put her car in the middle of the street to impede their ability to do their job, and their job involves getting into their vehicles and chasing bad guys who could very well be rapists and murderers. Their job involves having to keep the street clear so that they can exit and enter properly and safely, and this woman was keeping them from doing that. This man, for all he knew when he discharged his weapon, he was about to get plowed over, and in discharging his weapon, he was not only trying to save himself. For all he knew, she was going to take the car and run over every other ICE agent, or for that matter, innocent civilians. He didn't know. And the only way our society works is when a cop says, stop everything and get out of the car right now, you do it. And if you do the opposite and you stay in your car, put it in reverse, and then accelerate it straight at a police officer, we don't have the luxury of stopping and waiting to see if you turn your steering wheel so that you avoid that officer.
No, play
just
games,
don't have that luxury.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and it's really sad, but a car is a deadly weapon. Cassie Akiva, who's a friend of mine, she's a reporter for the Daily Wire, she went on a raid with ICE in Boston. And she said the agents knew the local activists were tracking and posting their locations. They wore masks because the agents were trying to dox them. Like, they have been a target of all of these people. But I will push back on you a little bit, because I think that these activists come from a place of privilege, and they've escalated things an incredible amount, and they don't understand that there are consequences to that escalation. And she learned that now there is a consequence to an escalation. When you aim a deadly weapon at a law enforcement officer, and a car is a deadly weapon, and you don't listen to instructions, you will pay the consequences. It's awful. I'm sorry, but this is it.
I think we agree. We're having a semantics issue, which we'll clear up in a second. And also, here's everything that we just said about this lawful conduct by this ICE agent is 100% true. And at the same time, I don't think it's fair to call this woman a domestic terrorist.
100%.
Engaged in an act of domestic terrorism. And both those things can be true at the same time. We'll get into that, the political fallout, the reactions from the governor and the mayor in Minnesota, and what's next in this story in a moment.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
All right, quick, clear up the semantics. It's like that old Bugs Bunny Daffy Duck cartoon, pronoun trouble. I think we're both saying the same thing. It's the word privilege that I'm pushing back on, because privilege suggests that if you're white and you're middle class or well off, you have no idea what it's like to deal with the police, and you don't know. That's not what this woman was experiencing. This wasn't privilege. Here's the word I think we're looking for: arrogance.
Yes,
I think she had the arrogance that she's an activist, she's righteous. She can do this, and we've seen it on the college campuses with the pro-Hamas protesters. We've seen it with the mobs in the streets since BLM, when they're backed up by their armed thugs, Antifa, and they can go and do whatever they want. And if law enforcement does their job to keep society running right and keep the bad guys off the streets, like we saw here and like we've seen in all of those other instances, they have the arrogance to suggest that, no, their mob mentality supersedes and overrides what basic civilizational norms have dictated for decades. It's arrogance, not privilege. How's that?
Yes, I agree with that. There's a lot of but I'm not gonna let go of my hatred of liberal white women. That I will not. I will not give you that one.
I would never get in the way of that. Please, are you kidding? That's part of our business model here on O'Connor and Company.
Yeah,
all right. Listen to Kristi and Noem yesterday as she was properly describing what happened here and properly backing up her agents who have been targeted and under fire and in some instances fighting for their lives just carrying out their duties for the last year enforcing federal immigration law. Here's Kristi and Noem, cut one.
Because of the adverse weather that Minneapolis has seen in recent snow, one of the vehicles became stuck and ensnared in the snow. Law enforcement were attempting to push out this vehicle, and when a mob of agitators that were harassing them all day began blocking them in, shouting at them, and impeding law enforcement operations. ICE officers and agents approached the vehicle of the individual in question, who was blocking the officers in with her vehicle, and she had been stalking and impeding their work all throughout the day. ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle and attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism. The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues. He was treated at a local hospital, has been released, and is now with family.
All right, so using a deadly weapon to harm, kill, or at the very least impede a federal law enforcement official in the line of duty, and doing that for solely political purposes, yes, I guess technically is an act of terrorism. But using that language at this time, it doesn't help to shed light on the situation, or for that matter, it's going to invite the stakes to be raised on the other side rhetorically, where you had, the governor of Minnesota saying, well, we're going to use the National Guard to protect the people of Minnesota from federal law enforcement agents, which basically is an act of civil war.
Yeah.
I just feel like there is a way to engage in this conversation and shed light on it that doesn't actually make matters even worse. And again, I have great respect for Kristi Noem. That phrase, domestic terrorism, makes it sound, I don't think did that necessarily.
So I thought that J.D. Vance had a really good take on Twitter. He wrote, he was responding to Sohrab Ahmari, and Sohrab said, this angle settles it. She actually made contact with the officer in front of the vehicle, and Sohrab is correct. And J.D. Vance agrees and says, you can accept that this woman's death is a tragedy while acknowledging it's a tragedy of her own making. Don't illegally interfere with federal law enforcement operations and try to run over our officers with your car. It's really that simple. It's really that simple.
It's really that simple.
Vance
really
says it, and he is correct.
That said, neither of us are lawyers. Neither of us are necessarily, actually. Ken Cuccinelli is a lawyer and a former attorney general and former DHS deputy secretary. He'll join us at 7:05. And listen, you have eyes. You can see for yourself. The person in charge of this situation and the way it develops is the woman who was behind the wheel of the car. She made all of the decisions and choices that led to her death. She could have avoided this. Everyone knows that. And you can ask, even the people who say this was murder, you can just ask them. If she had followed what the officer said, put her car in park, opened the door, and got out of the car, would she still be alive? And the answer is obviously yes.
Yeah.
And that's really all you need to know.
Yep.
It's 5:23. All right, coming up, Spencer Pratt has thrown his hat in the ring. He is running for mayor of Los Angeles. Who is he, and does he have a chance? We'll dive into it because Bethany Mandel is volunteering to be his campaign manager. She's very excited about this. We'll get into it next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37. Good morning. It's going to be a busy one here as we unpack the events of yesterday and sort of point you forward to this day ahead of us. Coming up at 6:35, Jason Sneed is going to tell us about Honest Elections Project, his organization, and the voter ID initiative in California, possibly a national push through the SAVE Act. 7:05, Ken Cuccinelli, former DHS official and attorney general, will join us over the shooting in Minnesota. And then at 8:05, Walter Kurt, who's been doing investigations into the Somali Leering Centers. Bethany Mandel, it's good to have you here all morning. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's always so fun. I get to get out of my house and talk to a grown-up for 4 hours.
Well, and I'm really happy you're here for this next segment because when Spencer Pratt splashed onto the scene with the reality show The Hills with his future wife, Heidi Montag, I was busy raising little kids.
I never watched it, actually.
Oh, really? This is right in your generational wheelhouse.
I know. I don't know why I never got into The Hills. I just thought it was silly and worthless, and so I never watched it. But now, fast forward to my late 30s, I can say that for another 2 months before I can't say my late 30s anymore.
Oh.
I was on the Hill doing something. I don't remember what it was. And I heard Spencer Pratt was there. And did I go try to find him? Yes, I did.
See, there you go.
Yes, I did.
Here's Spencer Pratt yesterday at a rally announcing. Actually, or is this at the rally or is this at his on his Instagram? We'll take a look.
No, he was at the rally.
Pratt.
That's why I am running for mayor. And let me be clear, this just isn't a campaign. This is a mission. And we are going to expose the system. We are going into every dark corner of LA politics and disinfecting this city with our light. And when we are done, LA is going to be camera ready again.
Spencer Pratt, former reality television show star, has a very popular podcast with his wife, Heidi Montag, who he met on that reality show called The Hills. He lives in the Pacific Palisades. Their house got burned down by the fire. He has lived through the dysfunction of Los Angeles and trying to rebuild his home. That's what led him to this moment. He wrote on social media, "If you let my town burn down, I don't care what team you're on." He specifically said this isn't about Republican or Democrat. He's actually, I think, probably running as an independent. I'm not sure. But he says this is about good governance, and we haven't seen that in L.A. And by the way, real fast, before everyone rolls their eyes, former reality show star, dude, look in the White House. Yeah. I know Donald Trump has other items in his resume in real estate and business and hotels and all that stuff, but for the vast majority of Americans, they know him as the star of The Apprentice, all right? And then if you want to roll your eyes some more and say, oh, yeah, but an MTV reality star, have you met Sean Duffy? who was a congressman from Wisconsin for multiple terms and now is your Secretary of Transportation, and many people are saying he could be on a national ticket because of the great job he's doing there. He was on an MTV reality show. So set all that bias aside. This actually could make a difference in the L.A. race, especially going up against Karen Bass. No Democrat's going to run against her because that's how one-party rule works. So she's got to be challenged by someone who can make some noise. Spencer Pratt could do that.
Yeah, no, and he's I mean, I think that reality star is not obviously a profession, but they had a very nice house in California because they have a business. They do, and all of it is LA based. All of it is the entertainment business. Like, this is what LA needs to survive, and they were doing very well for themselves. And I have loved following him on social for the last year. Exactly. Yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the fires. But he just has common sense. Like, why can't I get a building permit? This is crazy.
Well, so tell me about what he's been doing on social media since you've been following him there. I've been following Adam Carolla and some of the other efforts there. But has he been chronicling the dysfunction in trying to rebuild after the fire?
Very much, very much. And not just the dysfunction of after the fact, but what led to the fact that he lost his house.
Oh, yeah.
It really opened his eyes. And I also, just for people who used to watch him, because I've now seen a lot of clips, like I've retroactively gone on a deep dive into the Pratts. But one thing that I really like about him just as a person, and I judge people based on their personal life to a big extent.
Sure.
If you're a philanderer, I don't think highly of you. Spencer Pratt loves Heidi. Loves her, worships her, and I just think that says so much about his character, that he is so supportive of her, and I like him as a person. I think he's a delight.
Well, and I can tell you this, there are a lot of people who live in Los Angeles, former friends of mine, some current friends of mine, who are left-wing, liberal, hate Republicans, hate conservatives. That's why many of them are former friends of mine. But they also recognize that Karen Bass is a disaster.
Yes.
They will vote Democrat if they have to, because they won't vote for, a MAGA candidate. They just won't. That's just the reality of it. But if you give them an alternative, and Spencer Pratt can be from the entertainment business and sort of present that alternative, not promoting conservatives and Republican ideas. It's a mayor of a city. Who cares? It's about actually opposing what the Democrats have done to that city. I think he could actually make some noise here.
And he's got the name ID.
He has name ID. He can raise money, and he can raise money in the entertainment business from people who have made money from him, with him, and frankly just care about one thing. I want to be able to build my house back and enjoy my L.A. life again. So keep an eye on that. Other things going on in California, too, including a voter ID initiative. So we may have photo ID for voting in California before we have it in Maryland. We're going to get to that with Jason Sneed at 6:35, and some more stories now on the 1-year anniversary of the Palisades fires. More stories of fraud out in L.A. regarding those fires. We'll get to that in just a moment. It's 5:43.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
We're getting conflicting reports out of the rebuild effort out of the Pacific Palisades. By some accounts, not one house has been rebuilt. I remember in November they celebrated the first house that was rebuilt. Politico had a big article about it. But then if you read into the fourth or fifth paragraph, Bethany, it turns out that home that was rebuilt was actually already permitted and was in the process of being built prior to the fires.
So that's an important detail then, huh?
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, that's something that Spencer Pratt has been talking about a lot. The fact that, like, just no one can. But I did see that there was a pair of brothers from New Zealand who bought up like 15 Malibu properties. So that's great. That'll be cool. Like, just developing it instead of rebuilding people's homes that were burned down.
Yeah, but that's, again, that's what people are. Are you being cynical?
Yes, I'm being very.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. No, I think it's terrible.
But the conspiracy theorists in LA will say, oh, they're going to do this. They're going to wait this out. They're going to make people desperate, so they'll just sell to somebody who wants to come in because they don't 100%. Want to deal with it anymore. Yeah.
I mean, so we had family who lost their house in the Maui fires in Hawaii, and this is played out.
Yeah.
So it's horrible.
I have a friend. I have two friends. One friend did lose their house in the Palisades, and they've been dealing with this. I have another friend. If people forget the Altadena fire, which is a much more middle class neighborhood. Yep. Although in L.A., middle class means it's a $1.7 million home because of real estate. But it was. This is a friend of mine that I've known since I was in high school. Married, 2 kids. Youngest kid was a senior in high school. Their home, very modest little suburban home in Altadena, California, burned to the ground.
Yep, I have a friend in the same exact circumstance, but with little kids.
I donated money to her directly, not through there was this nonprofit set up called FIREAID. They had a big benefit concert. It was televised. It was huge. It was giant. I didn't touch that. Because sadly, I've learned over the years what those things are all about. And now Raymond Arroyo over on Fox News did a deep dive into FIREAID, where people all around the world felt terrible for friends like mine who have lost their homes and are in desperate straits and they want to give them money. Well, listen to where the money went. Cut 6.
These people are still suffering, and they need relief. They're still out of their homes. You'll remember an organization named FIREAID held a glitzy benefit concert last year, and all the big stars came out. They raised $100 million, and they promised to send the money directly to the people affected by the wildfires.
Everyone, please go to fireaidla.org and give what you can. All of the money raised will go directly to people who need it now and towards long-term efforts to build the communities back.
Guess what, Laura? They lied. The House Judiciary Committee just released a report on FIREAID. They found that $75 million of the $100 million raised was granted not directly to victims who were in need, but to 188 non-for-profits. It went to left-leaning groups, voter initiatives like the Native American and Illegal Alien Outreach, podcasts, non-profit administrative costs. It's outrageous. $500,000 to something called the Black Music Action Coalition, which ensures equity in the music industry. This is outrageous. It all went to political activism. And look, this scene is not markedly different from what you'll see now.
Yeah, Congressman Kevin Kiley of California was on the Judiciary Committee. He asked for this report. FIREAID funds used for activities such as voter participation initiatives, podcast programming, fungus planting projects, compensation for nonprofit staff. $550,000 in donations went to organizations involved in political advocacy. $250,000 directed towards programs benefiting undocumented immigrants. $100,000 in FIREAID donations was paid to podcasters, and more than $500,000 was used to cover salaries, bonuses, and consultant fees for nonprofit organizations. What a fraudulent scam, Bethany.
This is exactly how the fires happen. This is it. Like, instead of governance, instead of putting your head down and doing the job that you need to do, they decide that on their pet projects. It reminds me, I used to live in a town called Highland Park, New Jersey.
Oh, sure.
And we, on the regular, did not have safe running water because the water mains would burst, and it would take them 3 or 4 days to repair them and make sure that the water that was running through our taps was reliable. And we had a fire in our substation with our electric plant, and so we didn't have reliable power for an entire winter when I had a newborn at home. And all of their city council meetings, they talked about banning fracking and assault weapons.
There you go.
And I went and I was like, what about power and water? Because I don't have either of those things. I feel like that's maybe something you should be focusing on here. This is like the brain rot that happens on the left. They've decided to do these crazy liberal pet projects that make no sense, and there's just a glaring problem staring them in the face, and they're like, we'll get to that, but let's focus on what we want to do.
You're right. And you're right to point it back to, this is why L.A. burned, because instead of actually doing the basic fundamentals of making sure there's water in a reservoir and the fire department has functioning fire hydrants to put out fires, they do everything but. But there's something additional, something extra ghoulish and frankly evil about anyone who looks at the devastation of these fires, then goes to the public and raises money, gets all that money in millions and millions and millions of dollars from good-hearted people who just want to help out their fellow man, and then take that money and say, okay, now let's help illegal immigrants and let's do voter registration and let's pay for podcast programming and let's for any cause other than what individuals wanted to do with their money and wanted to help people out. That is evil incarnate. It truly is. And someone's got to go to jail. That's the bottom line. When you stand up there and say all this money is going directly to the victims and then you take that money for your own political purposes, that's fraud. Go to jail. Who's going to jail?
This is the liberal narcissism, though. They think they are doing something. This is so much more important. It's for the greater good. And here we are.
Yeah, that's Marxism, all
yes,
right. You're right. And the only way they'll learn that they're wrong is if they go to jail. It's 5:53.